As Commander-in-Chief, I will ensure America always has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world.
What the f?
So, America, the path that led me here in recent weeks was no doubt unexpected. But I'm no stranger to unlikely journeys. So, my mother, our mother, Kamala Harris, had one of her own. And I miss her every day, and especially right now. And I know she's looking down smiling. I know that. So my mother was 19 when she crossed the world alone, traveling from India to California with an unshakable dream to be the scientist who would cure breast cancer. When she finished school, she was supposed to return home to a traditional arranged marriage. But as fate would have it, she met my father, Donald Harris, a student from Jamaica. They fell in love and got married, and that act of self-determination made my sister Maya and me. Growing up, we moved a lot. I will always remember that big Mayflower truck packed with all our belongings, ready to go to Illinois, to Wisconsin, and wherever our parents' jobs took us. My early memories of our parents together are very joyful ones. A home filled with laughter and music, Aretha, Coltrane, and Miles. At the park, my mother would say, "Stay close." But my father would say, as he smiled, "Run, Kamala, run. Don't be afraid. Don't let anything stop you."
Why is she talking about her dad?
From my earliest years, he taught me to be fearless.
This is weird.
But the harmony between
she famously
my parents
doesn't talk
did not
about
last.
his dad.
When I was in elementary school, they split up. And it was mostly my mother who raised us. Before she could finally afford to buy a home, she rented a small apartment in the East Bay. In the Bay, you either live
her dad's
in the
alive.
hills or the flatlands. We lived in the flats. A beautiful working-class neighborhood of firefighters, nurses, and construction workers.
Her dad's alive, just not in her life.
Lawns with pride. My mother, she worked long hours, and like many working parents, she leaned on a trusted circle to help raise us. Mrs. Shelton,
her dad's a Marxist professor at Stanford,
who ran the daycare below us and became a second mother. Uncle Sherman, Aunt Mary, Uncle Freddie, Auntie Chris. None of them family by blood, and all of them family by love. Family who taught us how to make gumbo, how to play chess, and sometimes even let us win.
Double chunk chocolate cookie.
Family who loved us, believed in us, and told us we could be anything and do anything.
I don't know why people cry
They instilled
at
in
these
us
speeches.
the
Like, I genuinely don't understand
they
it.
personified. Community, faith, and the importance of treating others as you would want to be treated, with kindness, respect, and compassion. My mother was a brilliant, 5-foot-tall, brown woman with an accent. And as the eldest child, I saw how the world would sometimes treat her. But my mother never lost her cool. She was tough, courageous, a trailblazer in the fight for women's health, and she taught Maya and me a lesson that Michelle mentioned the other night. She taught us to never complain about injustice, but do something about it. Do something about it.
Imagine if somebody's up there and you share 100% of your opinions with. I mean, there are people whose opinions I align with quite a bit.
And she also taught us, and never do anything half-assed. And that is a direct quote. A direct quote. I grew up immersed in the ideals of the civil rights movement. My parents had met at a civil rights gathering, and they made sure that we learned about civil rights leaders, including the lawyers like Thurgood Marshall and Constance Baker Motley, those who battled in the courtroom to make real the promise of America.
Her dad is literally a Marxist.
So at a young age, I decided I wanted to do that work. I wanted to be a lawyer.
And hates her for this reason.
And when it came time to choose the type of law I would pursue, I reflected on a pivotal moment in my life. You see, when I was in high school, I started to notice something about my best friend, Wanda. She was sad at school, and there were times she didn't want to go home. So one day I asked if everything was all right, and she confided in me that she was being sexually abused by her stepfather. And I immediately told her she had to come stay with us, and she did. This is one of the reasons I became a prosecutor, to protect people like Wanda, because I believe everyone has a right to safety, to dignity, and to justice.
It's a pretty solid speech. It's better than I expected.
When I had a case, I charged it not in the name of the victim, but in the name of the people. For a simple reason. In our system of justice, a harm against any one of us is a harm
I think it's because
against
the cookie's
all of
good.
us.
5 booms.
And I would often explain this to console survivors of crime, to remind them no one should be made to fight alone. We are all in this together. And every day in the courtroom, I stood proudly before a judge and I said 5 words: Kamala Harris for the people. And to be clear, my entire career, I've only had one client, the people. And so, on behalf of the people, on behalf of every American, regardless of party, race, gender, or the language your grandmother speaks,
Unless
on
it's
behalf
Palestinian.
of my mother and everyone
Except for
who has
Palestinians.
ever set out on their own unlikely journey, on behalf of Americans like the people I grew up with, people who work hard, chase their dreams, and look out for one another, on behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America.
That's it. I'm surprised she didn't bring up ceasefire. I was wrong. I thought she would have brought up ceasefire.
And with this election, our nation with this election has a precious,
It's not over. This was the intro. Yeah.
opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and
Don't pay up
divisive
yet.
battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward. Not not as members of any one party or faction, but as Americans. And let me say, I know there are people of various political views watching tonight, and I want you to know, I promise to be a president for all Americans. You can
Palestine.
always trust me to put country above party and self.
Oh, never mind. She's talking
To
about
hold
Republicans.
sacred America's fundamental principles, from the rule of law to free and fair elections to the peaceful transfer of power.
Oh, she's just talking to Republicans. And then talking about January 6th. Never mind.
I will be a president who unites us around our highest aspirations. A president who leads and listens, who is realistic, practical, and has common sense, and always fights for the American people. From the courthouse to the White House, that has been my life's work. As a young courtroom prosecutor in Oakland, California, I stood up for women and children against predators who abuse them. As Attorney General of California, I took on the big banks, delivered $20 billion for middle-class families who faced foreclosure, and helped pass a homeowner Bill of Rights, one of the first of its kind in the nation. I stood up for veterans and students being scammed by big for-profit colleges, for workers who are being cheated out of their wages, the wages they were due, for seniors facing elder abuse. I fought against the cartels who traffic in guns and drugs and human beings, who threaten the security of our border and the safety of our communities. And I will tell you, these fights were not easy. And neither were the elections that put me in those offices. We were underestimated at practically every turn. But we never gave up, because the future is always worth fighting for. And that's the fight we are in right now, a fight for America's future. Fellow Americans, this election is not only the most important of our lives, it is one of the most important in the life of our nation. In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. Consider not only the chaos and calamity when he was in office, but also the gravity of what has happened since he lost the last election. Donald Trump tried to throw away your votes. When he failed, he sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol, where they assaulted law enforcement officers.
Oh, they're yelling, I think.
When politicians in his own party begged him to call off the mob and send help, he did the opposite. He fanned the flames. And now, for an entirely different set of crimes, he was found guilty of fraud by a jury of everyday Americans, and separately found liable for committing sexual abuse. And consider
The month since Kamala Harris launched her presidential campaign has been marked by unprecedented activity in American politics. Never before has a modern general election campaign shifted from a standstill to full sprint so rapidly. During this time, Democrats hosted a national convention featuring polished promotional videos, political spectacles, and musical interludes, all designed to bolster their new nominee. In Chicago, over the course of 4 days and in the packed campaign rallies Harris has held in recent weeks, the contours of her campaign strategy have begun to emerge. Surprisingly, it diverges from what one might expect from a sitting vice president who has occupied a White House office for 3.5 years. Harris is aggressively positioning herself as the candidate of change in this race. As she emphasized in her convention speech, she aims to chart a new way forward.
Consider what he intends to do if we give him power again. Consider his explicit intent to set free violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers at the Capitol. His explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as the enemy. His explicit intent to deploy our active duty military against our own citizens. Consider the power he will have, especially after the United States Supreme Court just ruled that he would be immune from criminal prosecution. Just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails, and how he would use the immense powers of the presidency of the United States, not to improve your life, not to strengthen our national security, but to serve the only client he has ever had, himself. And we know what a second Trump term would look like. It's all laid out in Project 2025, written by his closest advisors, and its sum total is to pull our country back to the past. But America, we are not going back. We are not going back. We are not going back. We are not going back to when Donald Trump tried to cut Social Security and Medicare. We are not going back to when he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, when insurance companies could deny people with pre-existing conditions. We are not going to let him eliminate the Department of Education that funds our public schools. We are not going to let him end programs like Head Start that provide preschool and childcare for our children. America, we are not going back. And we are charting a new way forward. To a future with a strong and growing middle class, because we know a strong middle class has always been critical to America's success. And building that middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency. And I'll tell you, this is personal for me. The middle class is where I come from. My mother kept a strict budget. We lived within our means, yet we wanted for little. And she expected us to make the most of the opportunities that were available to us and to be grateful for them. Because, as she taught us, opportunity is not available to everyone. That's why we will create what I call an opportunity economy where everyone has the chance to compete and a chance to succeed. Whether you live in a rural area, small town, or big city. And as president, I will bring together labor and workers and small business owners and entrepreneurs and American companies to create jobs, to grow our economy, and to lower the cost of everyday needs like health care and housing and groceries. We will provide access to capital for small business owners and entrepreneurs and founders.
Oh,
And
thank God.
we will end America's housing shortage and protect
Thank God.
Social Security.
We're going to help
and
entrepreneurs.
Medicare.
We're going to deregulate
Now
housing.
compare that to Donald Trump, because I think everyone here knows he doesn't actually fight for the middle class. He doesn't actually fight for the middle class. Instead, he fights for himself and his billionaire friends. And he will give them another round of tax breaks that will add up to $5 trillion to the national debt. And all the while, he
Bro, who's
intends to
doing-
enact what in effect is a national sales tax, call it a Trump tax, that would raise prices on
This campaign's
middle-class
off the rails,
families
brother.
by
I don't know who the
almost
fuck's writing these
$4,000 a
speeches.
year.
The deficit, bro, the budget.
Well, instead of a Trump tax hike,
Are these
we
guys
will
on
pass
crack?
a
What's next, bro?
middle-class tax cut
Is
that
Kamala
will
Harris going to do a NATO speech? What's happening?
million Americans. Friends, I believe America
The speech is all
cannot
right. Energy's all right.
truly be prosperous.
Her background, like her
unless
build up, her own
Americans
personal
are
biography
fully
was good.
able to make their own decisions about their own lives, especially on matters of heart and home.
I'm a Democrat who appreciates the speech. Also, I'm a Republican.
In America, too many women are not able to make those decisions. And let's be clear about how we got here. Donald Trump handpicked members of the United States Supreme Court to take away reproductive freedom. And now he brags about it. In his words, quote, "I did it and I'm proud to have done it," end quote. Well, I'll tell you, over the past 2 years, I've traveled across our country, and women have told me their stories. Husbands and fathers have shared theirs. Stories of women miscarrying in a parking lot, developing sepsis, losing the ability to ever again have children.
She's pushing to the middle, and I don't care if it's the winning strategy. It's not. It never
For
is.
their patients.
You're literally
Couples just
like swapping
trying to
out
grow
Biden
their
with Kamala was
family.
not pushing to the middle.
Cut off in the
Picking Tim
middle
Walz was not
IVF
pushing to the middle.
treatments.
Everything she's done so far that
Children
created this
who
momentum
survived
was not
sexual
pushing to the
assault,
middle. It was pushing left.
potentially being forced
So
to
why the
carry
fuck would it
a
ever be
pregnancy
like
to term?
good time to push middle? Like that's not a
This
thing.
is what's happening in our country because of Donald Trump. And understand, he is not done. As a part of his agenda, he and his allies would limit access to birth control.
I think this speech is way too
ban
Trump focused.
medication abortion, and enact
This is
a
2016. Oh my
nationwide
God. Oh my God. This is Hillary
with
Clinton. What
or
is happening?
without Congress. And get this, he plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions. Simply put, of their minds. And one must ask, why exactly is it that they don't trust women? Well, we trust women. We trust women. And when Congress passes a bill to restore reproductive freedom, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. In this election,
I'm being a little bit too loud.
many other fundamental freedoms are at stake. The freedom to live safe from gun violence in our schools, communities, and places of worship.
Fuck.
The freedom to love who you love openly and with pride. The freedom to breathe clean air and drink clean water and live free from the pollution that fuels the climate crisis. And the freedom that unlocks all the others, the freedom to vote.
He said he agrees with my politics, though.
With this election, we finally have the opportunity
He said he loves my
to
passion.
pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the freedom.
And agrees with my politics. But he thinks like this is like a double room.
And let me be clear.
And my
And
voice
let me be
is just
clear. After decades in law enforcement, I know the importance of safety and security, especially at our border. Last year, Joe and I brought together Democrats and conservative Republicans to write the strongest border bill in decades. The Border Patrol endorsed it.
oh
But Donald Trump believes a border deal would hurt his campaign. So he ordered his allies in Congress to kill the deal. Well, I refuse to play politics with our security, and here is my pledge to you. As president, I will bring back the bipartisan border security bill that he killed, and I will sign it into law. I know we can live up to our proud heritage as a nation of immigrants and reform our broken immigration system. We can create an earned pathway to citizenship and secure our border. And America, we must also be steadfast in advancing our security and values abroad. As Vice President, I have confronted threats to our security, negotiated with foreign leaders, strengthened our alliances, and engaged with our brave troops overseas. As Commander-in-Chief, I will ensure America always has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world.
what the fuck? Yo.
And I will
What?
fulfill our sacred obligation to care for our troops and their families, and I will always honor and never disparage their service and their sacrifice.
Bro, what? Yo, she's crazy.
I will make sure
What is happening?
that we lead the world into the future on space and artificial intelligence, that America, not China, wins the competition for the
Bro, she said we're going back to Iraq. She was like, I'm gonna make sure
leadership.
I'm gonna be real
Trump,
fucking crazy
on the
about the
other
military.
Threatened to abandon NATO. He encouraged Putin to invade our allies.
Oh my god.
Said Russia could,
Oh my
quote,
god. She's
do
doing the NATO
whatever the
speech.
hell they
Oh my god, she's
want.
doing the NATO speech. Oh my god. Oh my god.
5 days before Russia attacked Ukraine, I met with President Zelensky to warn him about Russia's plan to invade. I helped mobilize a global response, over 50 countries, to defend against Putin's aggression. And as president, I will stand strong with Ukraine and our NATO allies.
Harris's 40-minute speech may not have matched the soaring oratory of the Obamas earlier in the week, but Democrats in that arena were still enthusiastic. With high-profile celebrity endorsements and a widespread belief among Democrats that they are entering a new chapter, party members have become more energized. However, behind the scenes, party strategists are concerned. They need Democratic voters and activists to turn out, knock on doors, and convince friends and family to vote on November 5th. While opinion polls have shifted in their favor since President Biden stepped aside, the race remains very tight. Victory will be decided in a few key states: Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and North Carolina. In almost all of these battlegrounds, either candidate could realistically win. And if the past 6 weeks are any indication, the political landscape could shift again in the 70 or so days remaining.
With respect to the war in Gaza, President Biden and I are working around the clock because now is the time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done.
I'm out. I'm tapped.
And let me be clear. I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself.
Oh, I'm super out. I'm super out.
I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7, including unspeakable sexual violence and the massacre of young people at a music festival. At the same time, what has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating. So many innocent lives lost. Desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety over and over again. The scale of suffering is heartbreaking. President Biden and I are working to end this war such that
horrific, disgusting rape
the hostages
that Hamas
are
did.
Released, the suffering in Gaza ends,
But also,
and the
it's just,
Palestinian
it's really
people
sad what's
can
happening in
realize
Gaza.
their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination.
Nah. I mean, obviously she brought up ceasefire in Gaza, so I was right, but
And
no way she would have avoided it.
I will never hesitate to take whatever action is necessary to defend our forces and our interests against Iran and Iran-backed terrorists. I will not cozy up to tyrants and dictators like Kim Jong-un who are rooting for Trump. Because, you know, they know he is easy to manipulate with flattery and favors. They know Trump won't hold autocrats accountable because he wants to be an autocrat himself. And as president, I will never waver in defense of America's security and ideals because in the enduring struggle between democracy and tyranny, I know where I stand and I know where the United States belongs. So fellow Americans, I love our country with all my heart. Everywhere I go, in everyone I meet, I see a nation that is ready to move forward, ready for the next step in the incredible journey that is America. I see an America where we hold fast to the fearless belief that built our nation and inspired the world, that here, in this country, anything is possible that nothing is out of reach.
I don't
An
think protesting is
America
going to fix
where
this.
we care for one another.
This is
Look
like
out
kind of
for
crazy.
one another and
This is just straight up
recognize
like
that we have
blanket
so
Joe
much
Biden.
more in common than what separates
Like, it's weird.
us.
It literally, like, this is Joe Biden.
None of us,
This is Joe Biden's speech being
none of
delivered
us
by a black
has
woman.
to
That's it. Like, that's the
fail
only
for
difference.
all of us to succeed. And that in unity there is strength. You know, our opponents in this race are out there every day denigrating America, talking about how terrible everything is. Well, my mother had another lesson she used to teach. Never let anyone tell you who you are. You show them who you are. America, let us show each other and the world who we are and what we stand for. Freedom, opportunity, compassion, dignity, fairness, and endless possibilities. We are the heirs
I don't know what's going on.
to the greatest democracy.
I think it's over.
In the
Like, the
history
momentum
of
is
the
gone, I
world.
think.
And on behalf of our children and our grandchildren,
I think the momentum is gone. The media will still push it as though it's beautiful, but like it'll be like a reaction to Doug Emhoff.
We
Okay?
must be worthy of this moment. It is now our turn to do what generations before us
I'm seeing
have done.
signals. I'll tell you exactly what I mean in a second.
Optimism
after the speech is
and
over.
faith to fight for this country we love, to fight for the ideals we cherish, and to uphold the awesome responsibility that comes with the greatest privilege on earth, the privilege and pride of being an American.
Dude, I hate this. This like this fake patriotism, I hate it. It's like, I don't know why the Democratic Party is like trying to do fake patriotism and also being like the war party.
Let's get out there, let's vote for it, and together, let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. Thank you. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all.
No, everybody needs to calm down. This has nothing to do with like them kicking me out or anything. Okay, they didn't. And you guys need to shut the fuck up. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Okay, who the fuck am I? I'm just some random dumbass. Okay, calm down. And I'm not being humble when I say that. I'm nothing in the grand scheme of things. And you shouldn't ever operate on that front anyway. You should be thinking about what she's saying. Okay, and it's really important. I feel like Chad and you are overreacting. She's obviously playing the donors being anti-war. While good isn't profitable? No, dude, you're delusional. Are you fucking crazy? You think she's like a secret peaceful dove? What? When has she ever? Kamala Harris has been in politics for, I wouldn't say that long, okay? She was vice president for 4 years. Before that, she was a senator for a couple of years under the Trump administration in the state of California. But beyond that, she's been a fucking cop her whole life, okay? She has very little policy. She has very little policy backing. That's why I've been saying I'm in a holding pattern. I'm in a holding pattern. I'm in a holding pattern. I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to wait and see what she does. I'm going to wait and see what she does. Okay? This speech is supposed to be the moment that she shows you what she is and who she is and what she's going to do. Okay? That speech was literally a nothing will fundamentally change speech Where the fuck is the joy? Where the fuck is the hope? Where the fuck is the goddamn momentum? She says she's going to have the most lethal army of all time. Are you out of your fucking mind? Are you fucking insane? Who the fuck are we? What are we doing? This is the Democratic fucking Party, chat. This is not the Republican Party. Why the fuck are they turning into the 90s Republicans? I'm losing my fucking mind. I have to whisper scream because I don't want to fucking wake up my goddamn neighbor. Wake the fuck up. Maybe some of you get so duped by fucking brat memes and you fucking also are like, well, it's a younger, more dynamic candidate and that's all I wanted. I want more, okay? The only reason why I was even remotely hopeful or excited about this prospect was not because Kamala Harris is a young black Indian woman in comparison to Joe Biden, okay? I don't give a fuck about the aesthetics, okay? Most people don't give a fuck about the aesthetics. Diversity without experience from coming from that background that translates the progressive policy positions doesn't mean dick. How many fucking times have we had this goddamn conversation? Okay? You don't want a black person in power for the sheer virtue of them being black. You want them in power because they know what fucking white supremacy is. They've experienced it, they've lived it their whole fucking lives, and you expect them to fight against that sort of thing. That's the reason why diversity is important. Okay? And I'm not saying she hasn't lived it, by the way. Don't fucking come in here and behave in this smug fashion. I'm not saying that at all. Barack Obama experienced it too. Okay? Doesn't matter. When you get to that position of power, if you drop all that shit, then what good are you? What difference does this make? It's just pure marketing at that point. The reason why I was excited, potentially, is because the very fact that they dropped Biden was uncharacteristic for the Democratic Party. They run scared all the time. Okay? You're trying to say she's a DEI hire? Stop trying to fucking put racism in my mouth as I'm literally talking about white supremacy, you fucking brain dead losers in the fucking chat. Oh my God, liberals at one fucking speed. Liberals at one speed, bro. One fucking speed. Holy shit. For a brief moment, she had a lot of juice and a lot of momentum. For a lot of people, that juice and momentum came from the fact that she's young. Okay, she's younger and not a carcass. But for me, I thought, wow, the Democrats are behaving in a competent way. Okay? The Democrats are behaving in a competent fucking way, like a competent party that wants to win. Okay? Good. That's good. Then something amazing happened where she locked herself in with a yokel, okay, who comes from a working class teacher fucking background. A guy with no aspirations for higher office. A guy from the middle of the fucking country who had a progressive policy track record. That made me go, oh my God, they're really going to fucking own this shit. Okay? They're going to own this shit. They are going to own being a party that wants to help people. Maybe that might not translate to actual policies down the line. There's the Obama equation of it all, running as a progressive and then being a neoliberal when in office. But even then, on the messaging front, they had changed something. It seemed like they had changed something. Tonight has solidified my opinion that nothing has fundamentally changed. Okay? Nothing. Their housing policy is deregulating. Their housing policy is deregulating housing. That's what they say. I don't know the full details of it yet. I don't know what that's going to look like. It's not just like abolishing single family housing zoning restrictions. If that's what you EMBs are thinking, I don't think that's the only thing that they're saying. Trump is also running on deregulating housing to open up more housing units. Okay? This is objectively a neoliberal policy. Okay? They're running on tax cuts and fucking deregulation. It's crazy. And beyond that, in terms of the foreign policy, the Democrats don't even run to the right. They own the right now. Everybody knows that Republicans are reactionary monsters who always love waging war and continuing death and destruction. The Democrats also are absolutely that party. There was a time and place where the Democrats at least used to attempt a we are the peaceful party. We're the party of peace attitude. That has changed. It's gone. It's done. They're not even doing the we are running to the left of the Republicans no more. Okay? They're not doing that, which is so fucking stupid because Americans benefit Americans benefit from America being a hegemonic superpower, 800 military bases. All of that translates to, beautifully affordable treats that you can consume at a moment's notice. That much is true. But Americans don't understand that. When it comes down to it, on the messaging front, they see themselves as peaceful people. They see themselves as reluctantly having to wage war around the world. Okay? That's why Trump has run as the peace candidate in 2016 and won against Hillary Clinton, who he presented as a pro-Iraq war lover. He won in 2016 with that. And then 4 years of Trump waging wars, okay, he still said, I didn't start any new wars. And I assassinated our enemies. 2024, after Russia invaded Ukraine and after Israel destroyed all aspects of civilian life in Gaza, Donald Trump is once again running on the peace candidacy. Okay? We are a dying empire. The Democrats have to fucking figure this out as quickly as they possibly can. If they run on, we are the pro-war party, we are going to have the most lethal military of all time, they're not going to win any of those fucking jingoistic voters because those dumbasses are voting Republican every fucking election anyway. Whereas Trump gets to present himself as a moderate, a peaceful dove over and over again. It's ridiculous. The only part of this that was like truly progressive was abortion. The only part of this speech that was truly fucking progressive was on the issue of abortion, protecting abortion. Kamala Harris being a woman obviously automatically is like a massive W on that front. Okay?
Trump seems to be struggling to figure out how to campaign against Harris. He has not yet settled on a specific line of attack or even one of his usual nicknames. A prominent Democratic strategist said that he believes Trump will soon find a way to define Harris in a manner that best serves his campaign, as this is one of his key political skills. When that happens, the election will likely become more challenging for Harris. Despite the optimism radiating from the convention stage, there have been warnings too. In her speech on Tuesday night, Michelle Obama cautioned that the election would be extremely tight. We need to vote in numbers that erase any doubt, she told the crowd. We need to overwhelm any effort to suppress us. Her husband, Barack Obama, echoed the sentiment with a similar call to action, motivating the thousands in the arena to mobilize when they return to their communities across the country. It's up to all of us to fight for the America we believe in, the former president said, and make no mistake, it will be a fight. Candidates running in key swing states, which will decide the outcome of this election, are well aware of the hard work ahead. Pro-Palestinian activists expressed disappointment, saying Kamala Harris's speech at the close of the Democratic Convention in Chicago did not signal any departure from the status quo, despite a week in which the party largely sidestepped this issue, facing pressure to address critics of US support for Israel's action in Gaza. The vice president used her Thursday night speech to reiterate earlier calls for a ceasefire and a deal for the release of hostages. She affirmed her support for Israel's right to defend itself while also endorsing the Palestinian right to self-determination. Abbas, co-founder of the Uncommitted National Movement, which mobilized over 750,000 voters to protest US policy on Israel, said Harris missed a chance to win over those individuals, many of whom reside in battleground states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. What's needed in this moment is courageous leadership that breaks from the current approach, he told Reuters shortly after Harris formally accepted the party's nomination. Uncommitted delegates and their allies had pushed unsuccessfully for a part-time speaking slot at the DNC to address the latest bloodshed in the decades-old Israeli-Palestinian conflict. If you found this video informative, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and thanks for watching.